Vale, pues venga. Ah, como el más me dice que yo me lo pongo.
Te lo estoy buscando.
In that way, and then share that music and ultimately get noticed. So this is the new music industry, and I think it's really important to be aware of this. So hopefully that inspires you to really take this seriously. So home recording is awesome, but that doesn't mean it's easy. Yes, it's easier than ever, but it's still hard work. And a lot of people seem to get stuck at bedroom demo quality and aren't sure what they're doing wrong. Now, in my opinion, this happens because it's easy to get distracted by tips and tricks on YouTube, advanced techniques like parallel compression, multiband compression, stuff like that, and shiny objects like plugins and new equipment, when it's actually the fundamentals that matter most. And at the end of the day, the kind of boring stuff. Now, all of this combined with a huge number of people teaching this stuff online, books, all of it, makes it all incredibly overwhelming. Now, I call this shiny object syndrome, and it's the number one issue that's facing self-recording musicians today, in my opinion. So shiny object syndrome, again, it's getting constantly distracted by all these distractions, trying to learn absolutely everything as well. You don't need to know every little thing about recording and mixing and engineering to make professional sounding music. So you want to ignore some of the more advanced stuff. And when you take into account that most people are only doing this in their spare time as well, it becomes really, really challenging. So instead, the solution here is that you need to have focus. It's about doing less and not more. It's about focusing on one thing at a time, one step at a time, not 1,001 different things and constantly getting pulled in all these different directions. You really want to focus on the fundamentals. And when it comes to making high quality music at home, you want to focus on 1 or 3 things at a time. And that's it. So in fact, let me give you those 3 things. First of all, you need good source material that already sounds awesome. Then you don't need to be a mixing wizard. You just need to be comfortable with the core mixing tools. And then 3, you need to adopt a good mindset and have good habits. If you have these 3 things, you can make radio-ready music at home. And this ties directly into the 7 steps that we're going to cover here today. You can see the kind of color coding now as to how the first steps relate to source material, etc., you get. So even if we ignore those 3 steps, those 7 steps, I just want to drill this in. These only three things matter. So let's start with source material. So what does source material mean? Well, it's the tracks that you're working with when you start mixing. So everything you do before you start the mixing process. So that's vocal recordings, any other recorded tracks, so acoustic instruments, recording drums, going down that route. If not, it's drum samples and the other samples you use. It's your dry guitar tracks if you're plugging your guitar straight in. And then what amp sims you use, what settings you have on those amp sims, what synths you use, what sound design you're doing. So everything you do before you start mixing, i.e. adding kind of compression, EQ, that kind of stuff, that's source material. And if you get all of this sounding awesome before you start mixing, mixing is going to be so easy. And this is really the key to hitting professional quality. You need to have the source material sounding good. Now, we don't have time to go deep into all of these 7 steps. We'll be here all day. So I'm not going to go really, really deep into this one. Instead, I'm going to give you an overview of each of these 7 steps as we go through these kind of 3 areas. And then we're actually going to dive deep into the mixing steps. I think that's where most people stumble, and I'm going to open up my door to that. But let's start with step 1, which is gear. And you need to have the right gear if you have a chance of making radio-ready music. And when it comes to setting up a home studio, all you need to do is avoid having shiny object syndrome. So this is the gear that I recommend. If you have this gear, you have everything you need. You need a DAW, an audio interface, a microphone, a mic cable, stand, pop show, boring accessories, headphones, monitors, and some additional software. This is everything you need to make professional sounding music at home. And I even know some people who don't even have monitor speakers. Ideally, you want to have monitor speakers in a treated room, but if that's just not possible, it's going to be slightly more difficult, but it is possible to reach that kind of professional quality just mixing on headphones. And that track that I played you earlier that I said I recorded in Airbnb, I also mixed that in the Airbnb on headphones. So it's definitely doable. I'm not going to go through my personal recommendations here. You can just screenshot this if you want to look at some of the equipment. But what I want to drill in is, like, this is everything you need. And if you have this, you have what you need. For most people here, I'd imagine you've already got these things. And if not, it's going to be easy and affordable to get them. You don't need loads of outboard equipment, hardware. You don't need this massive professional studio. This is everything you need. So once you've got that, step 2 is to remove the room. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, your room is holding you back because it wasn't built to be a studio. It's not a purpose-designed studio. It's probably made to be a bedroom or a living room, something like that. Now, in the long run, you want to add acoustic treatment to your room. It's going to make all of this so much easier. But you can also do everything in your power to remove the room from the equation. So, for example, you can use drum software and samples instead of recording real drums. Now you're doing it in the box. You're removing the room because you're not recording real drum kit. You can use amp simulators instead of recording real amps. Again, you're doing it in the box, inside the door. You're plugging your guitar straight in, bypassing the room. You can use virtual instruments, you get the idea. You can also use Gorilla acoustic treatment. This is something we're going to come back to later to kind of kill the reverb in the room when you're recording. You can use cardioid microphones because they reject sound from the rear. So whatever you point them at, that's what they pick up. So that's effectively removing half the room as well. And then when it comes to mixing, you can use headphones as well as monitors. So when I'm mixing, even though I have a professionally treated room, I still flick back and forth between headphones and monitors constantly, probably about 50-50. And if your room is really bad, you can kind of go 75-25 in favor of headphones, again, to remove the room from the equation. Now, with all that being said, the best thing you can do is buy or build acoustic treatment for your studio. It's going to make recording easier. It's also going to make mixing much easier. So that is the kind of long-term goal. I use GRK acoustic panels, or you can just build them yourself and search DIY acoustic panels. So you've removed the room. The next step is to record vocals, because there's not really a shortcut here. You can't remove the vocals because you need to record the vocals in a room. And since the vocals are such a kind of focal point, focal vocals, that's confusing, but you get the idea. You need to get them right. And getting the lead vocal right can have a significant impact on the rest of the mix because it's what the listener is going to focus on most of it. And there really are no shortcuts here. So if this is something you're doing, if you're recording vocals, you need to get it right if you want your mixes to sound pro. Now the key to this is getting it right in the recording phase instead of focusing on mixing. When it comes to vocals, the mix is really, really important. I don't want to kind of downplay that. You need to add loads of automation, get the levels really consistent. You need to use EQ and reverb and delay properly to get that kind of professional polished sound. But if you don't have a good recording to start with, you're never going to get there. So you want to focus more on, sorry, I just hit the mic there. You want to focus more on the recording phase and get a professional sounding vocal at that point instead of thinking, I'll fix it in the mix. Now, to help with that, just a little tip, I often tell people to back off the mic a bit. A lot of people seem to record too close to microphones. This only really applies if you're using a large diaphragm condenser. If you're using a dynamic mic, then you're kind of meant to get close. But if you're using a large diaphragm condenser, especially a cardioid one, you want to back off a bit, and that's going to give you a kind of more modern, mainstream, professional tone, and it's also going to lead to a more consistent sound. Now, another common mistake is people recording in closets and stuff like that, and I don't know, bathrooms, but you want to use a big room and get away from the walls. When you're close to the walls, it causes something called cone filtering. I won't go into what that is now, but it's bad. And you want to be away from highly reflective surfaces because it's going to change the sound of the vocal and destroy a lot of the frequencies. So you want to stay in a kind of bigger room away from the walls. And ideally, you want a room with less reverb. So if it's got lots of hard surfaces, it's going to sound really reverby, like a bathroom. Imagine singing in a bathroom, it's kind of really reverby. When we're recording vocals, we want a really dry sound, the complete opposite of that. So a closet, again, unless you've got like a vocal booth where it's like heavily treated, that's the only situation where you use a small room. If it's just a normal closet, you're going to get a really kind of reverby sound and lots of close surfaces. So find a bigger room, record kind of in around the middle of the room, and then you can use Gorilla treatment to kill the reverb even more. So Gorilla treatment is just not professional treatment. So instead of building or buying proper kind of rock wall panels, what you can do instead is just get as many soft furnishings in the room as possible. So start by picking a room that already has soft furnishings in it. For example, a bedroom that's got a bed and a sofa in it and heavy drapes, curtains, whatever. It's probably going to be better than your kitchen. But at the same time, you can then bring more in. So if you can bring in a couple of mattresses and put them around you to record, that's going to make a huge difference. Duvets, that kind of stuff. So there we go. We've covered source material. If you have the right gear, you remove the room and you record awesome sounding vocals. That's how you get good sounding source material. So let's move on to mixing now. And we're going to start with the 7 plugins, the only 7 plugins you'll ever need. Because once you have the right gear and you've removed the room and you have great sounding vocals, you have good source material, but now you need to mix the track. And this is where most people stumble. So we're going to dive much deeper into this step because this is really the most complex part of the process. So let me just open up my door now for this step. Okay. So let's start by just listing those 7 plugins. Now, kind of in order of importance, we have EQ, compression, reverb, delay, gate, gain, and limiter. So they're the 7 plugins. Now, I'm not expecting you to remember them right off the bat. We're going to run through now each of those plugins. So EQ, compression, they're pretty obvious. Everyone, I think, at this point is aware of the importance of those 2 plugins. They're pretty much the 2 most important plugins you have. Then the next one is reverb. And no mix is finished without reverb. And it's just what we use to create space and front to back depth in the mix. Now you can see on this track, I've actually got one kind of room reverb channel set up. And then I'm using Send to actually add reverb to stuff. So anything with B20 on it is going to that reverb. Most of all, I'm doing it on these group channels here. So I've grouped all the BBs and the guitars together and then mixed, which is loads of kind of random channels and sound effects and smaller parts in this track. But then I'm still doing some reverb on the individual channels. So yeah, of course, reverb is really important. Even if you're only using reverb in a really subtle way and you're not using it as an over-the-top noticeable effect, you're going to need some reverb to give your mix that depth, that space, so it doesn't sound too dry. And it's just a really important plugin. Now, of course, I'm also using reverb on the vocal itself. So if we go to my lead vocal bus here, you'll see I've actually got a bit of reverb just applied straight to the vocal so that I can adjust the decay time slightly differently and have a slightly different sound on this reverb. But then we have delay. And pretty much the only place where I use delay in most mixes is on the vocal itself. So you can see I've got loads of vocals, loads of sends on this vocal channel here. So we've got like 16, 20, 20, and then, yeah, 23, 23. So 16, we're not actually using. I think I'm using that for a different plugin as a sidechain. However, 20 through 23 is this one, 20, 21, 22, 23. So that's our room reverb, our stereo delay, mono delay, and then I've got a short mono delay as well. So we've already covered room reverb, and I'm sending the vocal to that a bit. Oh, actually, no, I'm not sending that at all because I've got vocal, I've got reverb on the channel itself. But it's there ready to go if I want it. Then I've got 21, nothing on 22, and 23. So 21 is this stereo delay here. So this is the main way that I'm using delay. It's a stereo slapback delay on the vocal, so I have the feedback set really low, so normally between 0 and 10% or around there. And then I'll have a different time on the left and right. This is what this actually sounds like. So let's listen to the lead vocal in isolation.
It feels like I'm on fire all the time. It feels like you are water. It's all shine. Never know how long it goes on. Never.
So that gives the vocal a sense of space without a noticeable reverb tail. And that's the main way I use delay, is how do I give things space, like I would with reverb, but without pushing them back in the mix, which is what reverb will do. When you add reverb to something, it sounds like it's further away. And delay is a great way to do that. And then, of course, we've got mono delay as well, which is kind of like your more traditional echo delay. And that's where we have this kind of echo effect in the vocal.
And it feels like I'm on fire all the time. It feels like you.
So I've got two things going on there. There's this one here, which got really loud for a second, which I'm using as like a spot effect. So at the end of certain phrases, that comes up.
And it feels like I'm on fire all the time. It feels.
So to do that, I'm just increasing the send when it gets to there.
And it feels like I'm on fire all the time.
And I've got some crazy stuff going on there with like a flanger and kind of other stuff. So of course there are other plugins you'll have to use, but once we've finished going through these 7 plugins and I've explained why they're important, I'm going to show you that basically they're the only 7 plugins that I'm using. Of course, there are more specialist ones like flanging. In certain situations, you might want to use a flanger, but you'll see that 90%, or probably more, 95% of the plugins in this mix are those 7 plugins, and they're the only 7 plugins you need. So let's continue going through these. I've got this kind of short delay here, which you can't really hear, but I can whack that up so you can hear how that sounds.
And it feels like I'm on fire all the time. It feels like you are water. It's all.
So that again is kind of adding more interest and space to the vocal without pushing it back in the mix. So let's bring that back down. So we've gone through EQ compression, obviously important, reverb and delay for creating space. Then we get into the more specialist plugins. Let's start with gain. So you can see a lot of gain plugins here, just all over the place. Now what I'm doing with these is gain staging, and that's just the act of making sure we're at a good volume at all times. So for example, let's take this channel here. Let's find out where some of this. So for example, right here,
it feels like you.
So we've got this weird chime effect. Now with the gain plugin, I'm just taking off 4 dB. So without that, it's a little bit hot. We're getting up to kind of -6. Ideally, I want to be peaking a bit lower. I want it to be sitting kind of around -18 down here. So we just cut some gain off of it. Now we've got more headroom. So that's a really simple introduction to gain staging, which is another topic we could go into in a lot more depth. But that's why gain plugins are important. Really boring, but it's a really important utility plugin. Then we have gating, and that's purely for pretty much acoustic drums. So on this track, we do actually have acoustic drums and electric drums. So we have this acoustic drum kit, but then we also have this electric kit. So let's just solo the acoustic drums here. Now on the snare itself, you can see I've got a snare top and a snare bottom, and I've got a gate on both of these, because without the gate, if we just solo the snare top, and then with the gate, so So this is actually a virtual kit. If you listen,
it feels
it's a virtual kit, but for some reason there's bleed into the snare. And I'd much rather not have that bleed. Now, if this was a real drum kit, it would sound very similar, but way less control and way less polish. So even when I'm using a virtual drum kit here, sometimes you need a gate. Equally on the snare bottom. And then with the gate. So now we only have the actual sound of the snare to work with. Otherwise, when we start adding EQ and compression to the snare top or the snare bottom, it starts to change the sound of the whole kit. So that's why gating is important, also on the kick. And it's just one of those tools that sometimes you can't go without. And then finally, the last plugin that's absolutely essential is limiter. And the only reason you would need a limiter is if you weren't getting a track to master. So if you're sending it off to a mastering engineer, you actually only need 6 plugins. But if you want the option of mastering the tracks yourself, then you're going to need a limiter. Now, there are certain concepts within the mixing process where we can use a limiter. For example, we can add a limiter to a vocal, but I tend to avoid doing that because it just kind of complicates things even more. Unless there's a very specific reason why you need it, you can get away with just automation and compression on the vocal. So pretty much the only place you really need to use a limiter is on your mix bus. And without this, the track's pretty quiet. But if we want to get it to that commercial level so that we can upload this to various platforms and put it on CD, we need to get up to close to 0 dB without actually going over and clicking. The way we do that is we set the output of our limiter to -0.5, and then we push the limiter until we see some gain reduction. It's needed where it's starting to actually clamp down on the audio.
it feels like I'm on fire all the time.
And then we want to check the loudest parts for this.
It goes on never know.
So it's that simple. I like to see 2-3 dB of gain reduction on certain peaks. If the output's then set to -0.5, that's going to be loud enough. A lot of platforms volume match now anyway, so we don't need to really push it. But again, just another tool that's essential. So they're the 7 plugins: EQ, compression, reverb, delay, gain, gate, and limiter. With those 7 plugins alone, you can get professional mixes. And if you look at all the plugins I've got here, they are pretty much all of those plugins. So it's anything with FF Pro, could either be an EQ or compressor. But that's pretty much it. Tape delay, that's delay. Stereo room, that's here, that's the reverb. I'm not going to go through all of these, but you get the idea. I'm pretty much only using those plugins. Virtual Mix Rack will be compression. This will be compression as well, and maybe some EQ. On the vocal itself, RVox is a compressor. You get the idea. So I'm pretty much only using those 7 plugins. Of course, there are additional plugins that are important. For example, saturation. And then there's kind of utility plugins like flanging or other things you might want to do that have those rare situations where you're like, I just need this plugin for this purpose. Also, I'm not including here plugins that we'd use more in the songwriting, recording, and production process. For example, your VSTs and stuff like that. We're purely looking at the mixing context here. But either way, yes, those other plugins are important down the line, but not until you've really mastered these 7 key plugins. And anyway, you see FF setting here, that's saturation. So outside of those 7 plugins, I think the only other plugin I'm using in this track is saturation. So that's definitely something you want to start exploring after you've really nailed those 7 plugins, but it's by no means essential. And it makes a very, very small difference. Those 7 plugins will get you 95% of the way there. And then for that last 5%, you might have to start playing around with things like saturation. So that's pretty much it. So now I want to go a bit deeper into one of those tools specifically, which is EQ. And I just want to show you a quick trick for really finding the right frequency, because I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with. And EQ is the most important plugin. Of the plugins on that list, EQ is the most important. So let's find a source here. And I think the vocal is probably going to be the easiest thing to work on. So you'll actually see that I'm doing my vocal processing on a bus. And that's because on this vocal channel itself, where I've got the audio, I'm adding volume automation. So I went through and manually automated this, turning up and down different phrases depending on if it needs to be louder or quieter to get a really consistent volume. So if I then added my compression and my various processing on this channel, that would actually be before this automation, because the automation is on the volume phase. So it would go through here, it would go through a compressor, then it would go through this. But I'd actually prefer to add compression after this, because if this is the level going into the compressor, it's already been adjusted, it's going to be more consistent because I've leveled out the volume. So the level going into the compressor is more consistent, the compressor is going to react better, it'll be easier to control, etc. So what I do is I add volume automation from the channel itself, then I'll change the output to a new bus, so in this case a +1, and then I'll do all my processing, you can see the EQ, compression, etc. is on this new channel, and that means it's after the automation. So just a quick note there. And what we're going to do is just get rid of this EQ that we already have. And we're going to start to EQ the vocal again and find some issues and fix them. So I'm going to use just the normal stock EQ for this. I'm going to start by having a listen in the context of the mix, then I'll solo it. And the first step here is to identify an issue. Before I show you this trick, we have to first decide on our intention. And this can be, the difficult part. At the end of the day, there's various things you can do to help with this. You can use references. Over time, as you get better, you might just hear this vocal sounds really muddy. We can, just try things out if we want to. But ideally, now we want to set some intentions, and we can do that by listening to the vocal in the mix, and maybe we can add some references as well.
It feels like I'm on fire all the time. It feels like you are water. These thoughts of mine never know how long this goes on. Never.
Okay, so the issue that I'm hearing is that the vocal is a bit too muddy. It's kind of getting lost in the mix. It's almost too warm. In solo, it doesn't sound so bad, but then when you bring the whole mix in, it's kind of just getting lost a bit. It's not cutting through as much as I'd like. So now we have our intention. And like I said, that's not always the easiest part, and listening to reference tracks will help with that. Just kind of having a rough idea of where you want to take it will help, even if it's as vague as I think it needs more top end, or I think it needs more or less bottom end. It doesn't have to be really specific, like I think it needs to cut 500 hertz. Because all we want to do here is get a ballpark intention. And then what we're going to do is this trick that I call turning up to 11. And the basic premise here is we're going to go too far, we're going to turn it up to 11, then we're going to back it off. And the term turn it up to 11 comes from that film This Is Fun, where they have a guitar amp that turns up to 11, and that makes it louder than an amp that turns up to 10. So we're going to turn it up to 11, turn it up way too loud, to find the right frequency, and then we're just going to back it off, and we're going to bring it back down to below 11. So we go too far, we find the frequency, and we back it off. Now that we have our intention, which is there's probably a bit too much low end, and it can be that vague. Obviously, we're not going to be boosting cutting up here, so now at least we know kind of roughly where to start. So let's just start playing around with this. We can try boosting to find the area, and then we can try cutting to solve the issue. But either way, we're going to kind of just play around, move this around, and we're not going to make it really narrow like this. You may have seen this before, but to me, this just doesn't really work, because all that happens is you boost certain notes, and it just gets louder at different points, and it all sounds kind of horrific.
And it feels like I'm on fire all the time.
So at certain points there, it does get louder, but that's just, it could be run resonances, but often it's just because you're boosting the fundamental of the note that's singing at the time, and the note's being played. But instead, with this approach, it's still easier to hear, so we can find the frequency, but we know we're actually kind of in the right ballpark, and then we can tweak it from there. It's just much, much easier, so let's give it a go.
And it feels like I'm on fire all the time. It feels like you are water. These thoughts of mine never know how long it goes on. Never. I'll never know how long it goes on. Never know how long it goes on. I'll never know how long it goes on.
So So you kind of find the right food to seem like it's around here, but there is boosting at the 3 pushing even more. Something that's not cool. If you are going to push you, and you're taking photos of the effect, you know, boost the thing you can notice the color, you know you're in the right ballpark, and then you can experiment with cutting too much to find that area, and then we can kind of tweak from here. So we could then tweak the bandwidth until we're happy with it. But I'm quite happy with that. Let's see if we can also try adding a boost in the upper mid-range to bring it out even more and help it cut through the mix even further.
It feels like I'm on fire all the time.
So what I'm listening for here is an area where it doesn't sound awful, even though we're boosting by this much, and also an area that it sounds like it's kind of taking up space in the mix. It's not already being taken up by something else. An area that's not already being used.
It feels like
So up here it sounds kind of bad.
it feels like I'm on fire.
There it just needs to complement his voice a bit more, so we could try
Oh, no.
by boosting aggressively, and then we back it up with this.
It feels like I'm on fire.